are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked on Cowboys.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for tuning in. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. And joining me today, as always, is my co-host, Landon McCool. You can follow him on Twitter at McCoolBCB. You can also listen to him on the Best Coast Boys podcast. Landon, what's going on, sir?
Not much. I was sitting at home yesterday, hanging out with my daughter. We're just enjoying some time away from work and Twitter for a moment. The next thing I know, I get a call from Marcus Mosher, and Marcus is like, "Have you heard the news?" And I had not heard the news.
Well, you made it sound like I was excited about this news.
You sounded pretty excited about it.
No. Listen, we're gonna get into it. So let's just go ahead.
Yes, I do want to discuss that aspect of it as well.
So the Cowboys, I believe, officially are going to release Jaylon Smith on Wednesday. It was announced last night via Adam Schefter. The move is a little surprising after week 4. He was actually the captain in the Panther game for the Cowboys. But first and foremost, when you first heard the news, what were your thoughts, Landon?
I mean, the first thing that I felt was shock. I mean, I do think that it's a little bit shocking. We hadn't really gotten any kind of inkling of this. I mean, it's not like completely out of the realm of belief. Shocking. The timing is what's shocking, I think. So, and I still think, there's something else going on here. There's something, the timing still, even with all the reasons that we've heard, there's something else. There's another angle of this that I feel like we haven't heard yet. But I guess that was my first thought was, why now? What's different? And maybe part of it was that they're getting people back. But I tend to think that there's something else going on here, or at least there was another angle that added to this. There's clearly been tension here. They've clearly had issues with his contract that, almost a year and a half after they signed it. So I think that they wanted to get that contract off the books, and all the reasons that we've been hearing online about, and we can go over that, is about the guaranteed contract and that sort of thing. That all makes sense. I still feel like there was some other shoe that dropped that kind of sealed the deal here.
So, all right. So here's my take on the entire thing. I don't think there's one particular thing that you can point to and say, this is the reason why they cut Jaylon Smith. Because if he was playing really well, you wouldn't care about the money next year, right? The guaranteed money. Like if he was playing like he did as an all-pro player in 2018, you wouldn't, that's not a big deal at all. Now, if he wasn't a starter and was playing really well on special teams, you could say, all right, let's just keep him on special teams this year. We've already paid him his money and we'll cut him at the end of the year, right? But he wasn't really doing that. And it kind of sounds like he wasn't all that interested in playing special teams. So I just think, honestly, Landon, it's a combination of things. The Cowboys can save some money next year, right? If he signs a decent deal this year, there's some offset money. They obviously like Leighton Vander Esch and Keanu Neal more. We know that because Keanu Neal played more snaps than Jaylon. Played more snaps than Jaylon in the first 2 weeks when they were both healthy, right? And we know they like Jabril Cox. I think they wanted to see what Luke Gifford could do because he's younger, he's cheaper. I just think it's like the perfect combination of all of these factors coming into it. That's now it's the time to release him. I honestly think that's most of it.
And let's not forget the thing that we talked about yesterday. Like when Donovan Wilson comes back on the field, how are they going to find snaps for Curse? I think, having him kind of play some more of that nickel backer position, which, kind of reshuffles the linebacker, snaps as well, is a way to do that. So I agree. I don't think this was, when I say that there was another shoe that dropped, I don't imply that this was the only shoe to drop. I think this is a tense situation that clearly Jaylon's contract was a dead man walking for next year. I guess the thing that was surprising was that he's been playing not great, but I mean he's been playing like we expected. And he's been playing appropriate snaps for how we expected. So for him to get cut to me feels like there was some other thing that happened. So I don't know. Who knows? We'll see. All I know is that, when they signed the contract, when he started out, like before we end the book with Jaylon Smith, like what a crazy story he is. I mean, to go from, probably top player in the country as a college football player to get injured, assume that he's never going to play football again, at the very least, maybe never even walk again. Some people said, and then to come back and play football and then play at a high level of football for at least a season, probably a season and a half, sign a major contract, and then to see him basically turn into the Cowboys villain. I mean, just because, he's played poorly. That's certainly not defending his play. And I don't think his, off-field demeanor has made him any friends. But I also think that, he became the thing that Cowboys fans complain about, like in casual conversation. So, and I think that there's a lot of people that are thrilled today and clearly just dunking on the fact that he got cut, which I guess I understand, but at the same sense, it's like, I'm glad he's gone just simply because I'm sick of hearing people dunk on Cowboys players that are Cowboys fans. So,
I mean, I don't think it's not fair to Jaylon to do that. I mean, there's some stuff that we talk about that's just dumb and we don't need to spend time on it. But I actually think this is a good move for the Cowboys for a couple of reasons, right? Like they have a long-term picture here. Like, hey, we're not going to keep this guy on a roster next year. Let's just make sure that we don't have to pay him any more money. And it's a good short-term solution because now we get to see more of Keanu Neal. We get to see maybe more of Jaron Kearse at linebacker. Obviously, they like Jabril Cox a lot. So I think it makes a lot of sense for them. I also think, listen, we've heard about the team chemistry for a long time for this team. Like Amari Cooper said, this is the best he's ever seen a team kind of click together. And you just wonder, like somebody like Jaylon, who, and I'm not saying this is happening, but when he's being paid like a top 10 linebacker in football and he was a Pro Bowler and now he's being reduced in snaps, like is that a kind of thing that could potentially make this not work out? And the Cowboys just decided, hey, go play somewhere else. You're too good to be sitting on the bench, but you're not quite good enough to be a full-time starter either. Is it better just to move on and be done with it? Maybe.
Yeah, I have to say, organizationally, it made me very thrilled. Yes. Because I think it shows the willingness to do what you need to do, and not afraid to take that hit. I mean, they're going to be on the hook for, I think, $16 million for the next 2 years.
This year,
like you said, there's a chance that there's like about, I think it's $750,000 in offset language if he when he signs with it, because I think he will. Yeah. So the Cowboys will probably be on the hook for a little bit under $7 million this year for what he's got. But I mean, signed up with
really quickly. There are some people wondering why didn't the Cowboys release him earlier this offseason if you were only going to play him 4 games. I even saw some people from some credible cap sites say, hey, if the Cowboys would have released him at this time, they could have saved, $20 million? It's actually not the case. He had minor surgery this offseason that guaranteed his contract for this year. So Dallas didn't have a choice whether they wanted to keep him or not and, save that money. And I think that's what played into their decision to do it now. Yeah. He's healthy. Let's not risk it, because if he's not going to be a top 3 linebacker for us, we can save that $5 million, maybe even up to like $6 or $7 million next year, and maybe try to re-sign Connor Williams or Dalton Schultz or somebody that we might have lost in free agency. I think that's why it makes so much sense.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think clearly they looked at their young defense and realized that there are some guys in there that they want to keep. That, I mean, like you mentioned, Schultz, Williams, Gregory, all free agents next year. So and then you've got some guys on some 1-year deals that you may want to keep, Sure. So I think obviously they were not going to re-sign. They were not going to keep his salary for next year intact. The injury guarantee, the injury guarantee was there 4 weeks ago too. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So again, as much as people are using that as a reason,
it's only part of the equation, right?
Yeah, like exactly. There's only part of the equation. That wasn't the outward force, because that force was there for the last 4
weeks. If he was playing really well, I don't think the Cowboys would have worried about it, right? but when
Yeah, I mean that's the
that
thing is
part
they
of
had
it
to do
in.
they had to make the do you know they had to what's the saying make chicken salad out of chicken dumping.
Yeah.
And I think that's what they were trying to do with the situation. They
Yes.
had the contract, they had to eat it. They're trying to find ways to make him a useful player at that contract rate, but at a certain point, something changed the angles to the point
Yep.
where the risk was not versus the reward, and so they decided to cut bait.
Yeah, very interesting story. I'm sure we'll be getting more information over the next couple of days.
Absolutely.
Curious to see how the linebacker room plays out even this week with Keanu Neal expected to be back, Leighton Van Der Esch, and we'll see about Micah Parsons. So let's take a quick break and we'll get to the next big story around the NFL. But before we do that, I want to tell you guys about Get Upside. My listeners are making up to 25 cents for every gallon of gas every single time they fill up. Just download the free Get Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now. Use promo code Touchdown and get a bonus 25 cents per gallon on your first fill up. That's up to 50 cents cash back. Don't pay full price at the pump anymore. Get cash back using Get Upside and use promo code Touchdown. All right, Landon, we were going to talk about Stephon Gilmore because he was expected to be released by the Patriots, but he has not been released because within the last 5 minutes he's been traded. He's been traded to the Carolina Panthers for a 6th-round pick. So that's just how fast things happen here in Cowboys Nation. Right? We were going to do a whole segment on Stephon Gilmore. What did he make sense for the Cowboys, and what would you give up? But that's no longer an option. So thoughts?
My thought is this is why you announce that you're going to cut a player before you actually do it. It's because that chums the water pretty good if he's a desirable player and you still want to get that chance to trade the player. I know the Cowboys had put feelers out for Jaylon, but I mean, you can't trade that contract. That's the problem.
No.
So, this is, I'm frankly a little surprised that they could trade Stephon Gilmore's contract. So it'll be interesting to see what the offset is there and what he's going to get paid and that sort of thing. But
Carolina thinks that they must think they're a legitimate Super Bowl contender, right? Moves for CJ Henderson and Gilmore in the last couple days, right?
I don't really get that. I don't know, man. Like I don't think that they are. I mean, people think that the Cowboys. People think that the Cowboys are kind of on the border of being contenders for this year.
No.
If we're on the border, then Carolina's.
I thought it made a lot of sense for like Green Bay, like because it's pretty clearly
I
Green
assumed
Bay's last one, right?
I assumed you were going to say Green Bay or
Kansas City or somebody like that, right?
Tampa Bay. I mean,
Tampa
really,
Bay,
I just thought. I mean, Tampa Bay really could have used him. So, Carolina is a very curious choice, but again, everyone else was probably waiting at the entrance or the exit for Gilmore to walk out and offer him free agent deals once he cleared waivers, or maybe even to claim him. I don't know, but no, he's a vested vet, so there's no waiver. So they were just waiting at the exits to claim him, and then New England grabbed him by the collar as he was out the door and pulled him right back in and said, "You're going to Carolina." So. I don't really understand. I mean, it's not a lot. They're trading a 6th-round pick for him.
It's a salary, though. I mean, I believe.
Yeah, and also it's like how long are you're gonna have to re-sign him, right?
Yeah, because he's a free agent at the end of the year. I think he gets like $7 million or something this year. So we'll see. But
it doesn't make sense as a short-term rental. So I don't really understand this move.
The only way that I can see what happened, and Mike, I bet this is what happened. Stephon Gilmore went to South Carolina, right? J.C. Horn, South Carolina. I'm wondering if there's some ties there. Now he goes back down to Carolina. Maybe, the coaches down there were saying, or the players are saying, hey, Matt Rule's really fun. Come play for us. I just have a feeling maybe that's what was going on. So,
and maybe what it is that the Carolina is looking at this as, we get Gilmore for a year. Maybe he can help mentor someone like CJ Henderson and talk to Horn while he's recovering.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the year, he goes and signs someplace else and they get a comp pick for him. So
maybe would not be surprised. That's a good thought as well. All right. Well, the good news is now we have some time for some all 22 notes, right? We promised that we were going to get to some of our notes from watching the film. Landon, let's just kind of go rapid fire. We've got about 10 minutes here to talk about some of the things we saw. What was one of your biggest takeaways when watching the film?
Well, I think, again, it's just to kind of continue. Well, first of all, the big flashing red light is, man, this offensive line played fantastic on Sunday. I mean, we heard everybody talking about it. all week, but to actually go back and watch it, I mean, Zach Martin was just moving bodies all game. I mean, look, I'm an Auburn guy, and Derek Brown is fantastic, but I mean, both Connor Williams and Zach Martin were kicking his butt all game long.
Yeah.
And it was fantastic to see. I will say that I feel like Connor Williams has mastered finally the ability to hold in the NFL. Which is a huge part of blocking.
Well,
which is a huge part of blocking in the NFL. Yeah, I mean, just being able to, and I don't mean that in a negative way. Every offensive lineman holds. Like don't fool yourself. But what the difference is that you have to be subtle about it, right? You got to be able to hold the guy while concealing your hands close to your body, understanding the angles. He's really gotten a lot better about, taking that extra little bit of hold. And right when he's about to like get into the arm extended, oh God, everyone's going to see this mode, he falls on the guy or he tackles the guy like, oh, we both fell down. I don't know what happened. It's the whole clip, trip, and hold, learning how to do that in the NFL. And I think he's gotten that down. I thought that overall, the offensive line played fantastic. The protection at times was a little bit shaky, but I think that's kind of part and parcel of what Phil Snow and the Carolina Panthers do. They're really good at dialing those things up.
First play of the game, the hit that Shaq Thompson had on Prescott was great because I initially thought Zeke missed the block and he was late, but there's no way that Zeke can make that block on play action.
An incredible play call with incredible blitz call versus what they were trying to do, right? Because Dak tried to do the play action to the opposite side to which Zeke needed to get over like two whole gaps to get in front of the blocker. And it was just the timing of it was just very well done by Carolina. So kudos to them on that. But I think that, most of the blitz stuff, you felt like Dak was getting the ball off in time. I think that going back and watching Cooper, playing with what we know was injured ribs and a hamstring, and he didn't play a ton of snaps. That was the thing that I think was surprising to me. I had forgotten is that he only played I think something like 30 snaps or something.
I'm telling you, he's Willy Wonka. He walks out there. He looks like he can barely even jog, and he's beating a corner down the field for a 40-something yard touchdown.
Yeah, and I think he definitely played an impressive game. A few more notes on the offense. I think Dalton Schultz played a better game than we even saw.
The fumbles were a real thing, right? That's the thing that took it away from us, right?
The second one was. The first one was not a fumble at all. So the second
it wasn't a fumble, but it was close. That's the thing. It's like you gotta hold on a little bit better than that. And I get it. It's not technically a fumble, but still. You don't want to see your guy putting the ball on the ground 3 times in this game.
I mean, look, they took away his touchdown. They took away his 2-point conversion, which I think was a 2-point conversion too. So, those things can offset. But I saw a couple different times when, he was running free and that Dak missed him. Like he was running up the seam with space and routes a lot. And I think that, Dak was trying to mix things up and sometimes just wasn't getting over to him in time with the blitz. But Schultz has really kind of shown up in a way that he's just really taking his game to the next level. What anything else that you saw on offense that we should mention before we kind of flop over to defense?
We kind of made fun of it last week and we were kind of like joking about it, but like Connor McGovern at fullback is like a real thing. Like they even expanded his playbook more this week. And like there was one play where he's lined up like as an H back or an offset back, right? And like instead of just sprinting downhill to hit somebody or anything, he like was patient, was waiting for the gap to open up, and he hit the linebacker and turned the guy. It's like, listen, you might be able to find 10 snaps a game for Connor McGovern just as a fullback, as an extra blocker or whatever, but because he's good in that role.
Everybody in the Carolina front seven seemed very willing to get turned on blocks. I mean, Tyron Smith executed a reach block where he got on the other side of the 3-tech and then completely turned him around. Yeah. And it was just like, I was sitting there going, I understand Tyron Smith is Tyron Smith, but like, how are you letting this do this? Yeah. You're a professional football player too. So, I mean, again, it's too bad we don't have a ton of time, but just, we've talked. Everyone's talked about
Tyron's
Zeke,
back.
Pollard.
That's the biggest takeaway, right? Tyron is back.
Tyron Smith is so back, and this offensive line, frankly, in general, is just playing lights out football right now.
Yeah, I didn't think Terrence Steele had quite as good of a game as we saw maybe last week, but he was still really good as a run blocker.
He's holding on. He's not
killing you, and that's exactly
he's
what
not
you
killing
want
you,
from
and
a
that's
tackle, right?
Exactly. Just don't kill me. Don't kill my game plan. And he's not killing us.
Right. All right, we're going to get to some of our takeaways on defense, but before we do that, I want to tell you guys about BetOnline. As always, BetOnline is your number one spot for all the pro and college football action this season with a new updated site and interface, even more odds, props, and contests. BetOnline continues to be the number one source for everything football. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Don't forget to use promo code LOCKEDON to receive your bonus. BetOnline, the fastest and easiest way to bet on all of your favorite sports. Also want to tell you guys about Built Bar. You know Built Bar. It's the best tasting protein bar out there. It's hard to even explain it. Real chocolate, amazing flavors. It's just a great combination of low calories, high protein, and low sugar with no crazy additives. Best of all, they taste fantastic. Go to BuiltBar.com and use promo code LOCK15 to get 15% off your next box. All right, defense. I want to start with Jaylon Curse. Made a couple incredible plays in the run game. Did get a little bit exposed in coverage. So there's some times where he just guesses it wrong, I think, in assignment stuff. But I think it's pretty clear, like, he's probably a part-time player. I don't think you want him to be a full-time guy. But 20, 25 snaps a game, I think he can make a real impact.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a really fantastic third safety, nickel backer type, in that role. I think between him and Keon O'Neal, I think you've got two players who are really good run and hit defensive back, linebacker hybrid types. They can both play, I think, either one of those roles. You still want Neal, I think, playing more of the linebacker role and Curse playing more of that kind of tight end, over the tight end, Sam linebacker, defensive back type, position, overhang defender, however you want to call it, star position. I think they interact with each other really well. I do think that he was thrown into a role that, I think some of us were nervous about when we lost Donovan Wilson. I think we've seen good things from Curse, but it still was a step up. And I mean, not only did he step up, I think he practically almost stole the job away from Donovan Wilson. Almost. I do agree, after kind of watching the tape a little bit more, that he did seem like there was some mistakes in coverage, or maybe that there's some confusion on what his assignment was, and I think that's probably speaks to inexperience, and he hasn't played a bunch of defensive snaps in his career. I mean, he's just been a lot
basically
of
special teams guy. Yep.
And that's why it was, I guess, so surprising that he was playing so well. So, I think with a little bit more evening out, maybe like a reduction in snaps, I think between that and what you can get out of Wilson, you're going to get some good safety play. Again, continued good safety play. And again, I have to bring it up. I think Malik Hooker played a really good game.
I was just about to bring him up because he had a chance to have a huge game, but he had two bad things work against him. Number one, he had a perfect run fill, and he got pushed in the back, and he just missed the tackle.
Yeah,
and he was so upset that he didn't get the call.
He got up, and he's like, "What the heck?"
It was perfect. It would have been a great tackle for loss. He had another one where it was a screen on his side, and he kind of slipped the tackle, and he just missed it, or slipped the block, missed the tackle. And that play ended up going for like 12 yards or whatever. But if he makes those two plays, he's probably the first guy that we're talking about to get today rather than the second.
Yeah, and I think, he's the one guy at the safety position who's still kind of working himself into shape. If you think about, like, he got a late start. Everybody else, he's still recovering from an Achilles injury. So I'd like to continue to see improvement there, which I've seen. And I think, if that trajectory keeps going, man, you're really going to have quite a safety rotation going pretty soon.
Yeah, I think so. Nahshon Wright played one snap and had one penalty. There you go. He might not be ready.
Yeah, maybe let's see what Kelvin Joseph has.
Yeah. Quinton Bohanna, I thought, kind of struggled in this game. He had a couple nice plays, but he played 17 snaps. It's just a lot to ask for.
They're using him in situations that they wouldn't normally use him in if they had a healthy defensive tackle rotation, right? Like, because they have to. So, he's playing more snaps that are passing down snaps, and they're trying to fit him in there just to get, some guys some breathers. He can't have Osa Odighizuwa rushing the passer 65 snaps a game. Like, he just won't make it. So they had to rotate in Bohanna and put him in. And to his credit, like, it wasn't great, but this is also not what he was drafted for, at least not early in his career. So for him to go in and at least give you something, the snaps. And I mean, Justin Hamilton.
I was just going to say, first of all, I didn't realize how many snaps Justin Hamilton played until I went to the game log. It was like, I'm going to double check it. I have it right here. 31 snaps he played after being called up from the practice squad.
I've been putting respect on Justin Hamilton's name since training camp. I mean, and I feel like when he goes out there, he gets through the line. He penetrates. He's able to hold up double teams. He's what you're kind of looking for a nose tackle in some regards. Now, I don't want him playing a ton of snaps. I think 30 is about the most that you would ever want him playing. But I think that, look, you're not getting great snaps from your down roster nose tackles, but the fact that they're getting, decent snaps and one of the two guys is a rookie and the other one is a guy that you're calling up off your practice squad week to week, that's pretty decent. And that's kind of, helping to not let them be exposed. And that's really what we're worried about, is that the defensive tackle depth injury, the problems would cause the Cowboys to kind of be exposed. And that hasn't really been the case yet. We'll see what happens when the turnovers don't come at the rate that they're coming.
44 combined snaps for Justin Hamilton and Austin. I cannot pronounce his name. You're going to have to help me.
Fayola?
Fayola. 44 snaps from those guys. And I'm sure that going into the season, nobody was expecting those guys to play as much as they are. So eventually, if you get Neville Gallimore back, Carlos Watkins is supposed to return to the lineup this week. I think that'll help your defense because it's just too many snaps for those guys. And then on top of Quinton Bohanna's 17 snaps, you just have a lot of guys out there that probably shouldn't be out there, except for Justin Hamilton, who's not bad. He's not bad. That's what I'll say.
Yeah, I mean, look, again, when we're talking about these guys, we're not talking about playmakers. I just need you to not embarrass yourselves. Bohanna had some bad snaps. Hamilton had some bad snaps, but they weren't consistently being crushed. It wasn't like noticeably bad. And Bohanna will get better. And I think especially when he's used in more appropriate situations to his skill set, I think he can eventually be a guy that can give you a little bit more as a pass rusher, not more than what he's doing, not a ton. But I think that, it's still early in his career. And again, despite what it may look like with Osa Odighizuwa, playing defensive tackle as a rookie is incredibly hard.
Yes.
I think we should give him a little space. And I think he's played admirably considering all things.
Last thing that I wanted to mention, the Cowboys moved Parsons all over the place in this game. 16 snaps as a defensive end, 48 as a linebacker, 3 as like a slot defender as an overhang, and then 1 as an outside. I know Pro Football Focus calls it a wide corner. He was basically just following the running back out there. So I kind of think that's like the right distribution of snaps, right? Like half the time basically as a linebacker, half the time as an edge guy. Does that seem about right to you?
Well, yeah, except it's not half and half. It's more like 3 to 1, right? Of linebacker to defensive line reps. And I think that's appropriate. I mean, because that's the best way to get him on the field for the most snaps. If you play him at defensive end the full time, I mean, you're probably only going to get 30 snaps out of him, 35 snaps out of him, maybe. If you play him at situational spots where you need him to rush the passer, and you said it, like 15 to 20 times a game, you can probably get still a solid load of linebacker out of him as well.
He's got to be in incredible shape, by the way. Hey, your break is to go play middle linebacker for the Cowboys. Like you're not rushing the passer.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the one thing the Cowboys are doing an incredible job of, and I mean, shocking the world, is Dan Quinn's doing a hell of a job of just lining these guys up in all kinds of different formations. Like it just aligning these guys. Like I saw, they'd overload one whole side where they'd have 5 defenders lined up on one side of the center. They're dropping half of them. Some guys are coming. Some of it looked like Phil Snow stuff. So I think, Micah is kind of the key to all that, the queen, as they keep on talking about in chess. And so they're going to move him around where they need him. And the good thing is that, again, the Cowboys have other versatile role players who can kind of fit in behind him where they need to. So I think this is going to be a weekly segment for us. It's like where's Waldo? It's like,
I was to say, where in the
Parsons?
world is Micah Parsons, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Just one play I want to highlight before we go, just to kind of show you where Micah Parsons is at. He's lined up as a linebacker. He shoots one of the gaps, the inside arm of the left guard, which is actually not the gap he was supposed to take because he kind of ran into the defensive tackle and was still able to beat the block, get around the block, and make the tackle on the running back on a wide zone play. Like, he shot the wrong gap and still made the play. Like, once he has a couple years into this and he understands, his keys better and where he's supposed to be, he's going to turn those 1 yard, gains into 3 yard losses. And that's when it's really going to be fun to watch with Micah Parsons.
Even when they use him as the penetrator in stunts and stuff, like, he just wrecks shop. I mean, he clears things out for other guys in the interior. It's just, he's chaos injected into your pass blocking scheme, and it's terrifying, I'm sure.
It's fun to watch. That is it for today's show. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll be back on Thursday with a crossover show with Patricia Traina from Locked On Giants. Make sure you guys are tuning in for that. I make fun of Jason Garrett a little bit, as always. You guys would expect nothing else. You can follow Landon on Twitter at McCool BCB. I'm at Marcus _Mosher. We'll see you next time.